We are going to work through all of the steps of doing a paired samples t-test in JASP. You will learn everything that you need to know for the quiz and for the test. I will also post the data set that I use in this video into Blackboard so that you can follow along with the steps. Now before I begin, I should tell you that this same t-test is known by many names. You may also hear it called paired samples t-test, repeated measures t-test, or matched pairs t-test. These all refer to the same test. I will call it the paired samples t-test. Now, as I did with the example using the independent samples t-test, I'm going to do this example with students' SAT math scores. With the independent samples t-test, we compared two groups: students whose parents had a college degree and students whose parents had a high school degree but no college degree. We examined their average SAT math scores and compared them between these groups. So we had two groups being measured one time. In the paired samples t-test example, we are going to compare scores for a group of business students on their SAT math and writing scores. We have one group being measured two times. Now here's the setup. The College Board SAT College Entrance Exam consists of three parts: math, writing, and critical reading. A member of the Business School Admissions Committee recorded the math and writing scores for a sample of 13 business students. Are the business school applicants better in one subject? Notice that we are not asking which subject. That would make this a one-tailed or directional test. We are simply asking whether one subject will be better than the other. Conduct a paired samples t-test and answer the following questions about your findings. Let's begin with the actual research question, the one that you would write out if you were doing this test. Do business school applicants score higher in math or in writing on the SAT? We have identified our participants, the business school applicants, and we have identified the two scales that we are comparing, math versus writing. The data come to us in an Excel spreadsheet, so we will examine the data in Excel. So as you can see in this Excel spreadsheet, our data are set up with the math scores in column A and the writing scores in column B. Now this is exactly what we want for a paired samples t-test. We don't need to change anything about the structure of the data. However, we do need to change the formatting of the spreadsheet. You'll recall that JASP does not open Excel spreadsheets, but it will open CSV files. So we need to File, Save As, and change our Excel workbook to a comma delimited file, or CSV. Save it to the desktop. And once we've done that, we can close Excel and we can open up a copy of JASP. Now that JASP is open, I will click on the main menu, Open, Computer, Desktop, and there's my CSV file. Click Open. There are the data. So these data have now been imported into JASP. We're ready to do our t-test. To do a paired samples t-test, we will go to T-Tests, and under Classical, Paired Samples t-test. We're going to move both of these scores into the variable pairs box, and I want you to watch what happens. When I move the first score in, there's the math score. There's a second box within the variables pairs that's saying, I need a second score. I need a pair of scores to do this particular test. So I'm going to click on writing score and move that in. Now we have our pair of scores, and we see we have the math score minus the writing score. Our T is a negative 2.3, 12 degrees of freedom, a P of 0.039. Now you'll notice that T value is a negative number. And it's important to know that the negative sign for a t-test simply tells you which scores were entered first. So for example, If I go back to my variables pairs, and I take writing scores and math scores and move them out, I'm going to put them in the opposite order. I'll put in writing score first and math score second. The t-test is now a positive 2.319. So it's simply a matter of which of the pairs go in first as to the sign of the t-test. That means you do not need to worry about the t-test sign for any of the interpretations. The positive t-test and negative t-test are interpreted in exactly the same way. Now let's look at our settings. We're doing a student's t-test. Our alternative hypothesis is that the mean of or we'll say mu1 does not equal mu2. That is our typical alternative hypothesis for a two-tailed test. If we wanted a one-tailed test, we could click that mean 1 is greater than mean 2, mean 1 is less than mean 2. We don't want either of those. We want the alternative hypothesis that the means are not equal. Our null hypothesis is that the means are equal. For assumptions check, we want normality. And then under additional statistics, a location parameter, the effect size. Let's get the confidence interval with our location parameter. It gives us our 95% confidence interval. We want descriptives and descriptive plots. And that's all the settings that we need to adjust. Let's take a quick look at those. We see our t-test, degrees of freedom, p-value, mean difference. There's our confidence interval that does not cross 0, so they're both positive. There's our coinc d, the values for our assumptions check, for our descriptives, and for our writing score and math score. We will now walk through the 5 steps of hypothesis testing for a paired samples t-test. These are the questions that you need to be able to answer for the weekly assignment and also for the unit test. When you look at the output, these are the items you should be able to find. Well, first one is select the appropriate statistic. That is always the easiest question to answer, especially when we're doing training, because the answer will always be whatever test we're learning right now. We are doing a paired samples t-test because we have one group of students who have been measured on 2 different scales. One group measured 2 times. Now, I will tell you that for the unit test and for the final, you will need to be able to look at the structure of the data and look at the research question and use that to determine what type of test, what is the appropriate statistic that you should use. Back to this example. State the null and alternative hypothesis. Well, there's 2 ways we can go with this null hypothesis. We can use the same type of hypothesis that we used for an independent samples t-test. mu1 equals mu2. The scores are the same. The means do not differ. However, we could structure it differently with a paired samples t-test. We could make our null hypothesis say mu sub d equals 0. So what does that mean? It means that the mean of the difference scores will be 0. If we took all of the scores in column 1 and subtracted the scores in column 2, and then took the mean of all of those differences scores, the mean of the difference would be 0. The scores above and below the mean would cancel each other out. What does that leave for our alternative hypothesis? It is that the means 1 and 2 are not the same. mu1 does not equal mu2. Alternatively, we could say mu sub d equals 0. Our level of significance is pretty well determined for us. We're going to use a two-tailed test with an alpha level of 0.05. The degrees of freedom is 12. That is the number of pairs minus 1. We have 13 pairs of scores. The degrees of freedom, therefore, would be 12. To calculate your critical value, we could go to our students distribution table t-test table. We could look in the set of columns for a two-tailed test, the specific column for alpha of 0.05, go down the degrees of freedom column until we found a 12, and determine that our critical value is 2.179. That is one way to find the critical value. but let me show you another. In order to get the critical value, we could use this effect size calculator that I've included for you in Blackboard. There's also a copy of this same calculator in the Google Drive for the YouTube channel. Now, in this table, I've included a t-table for two-tailed tests and one-tailed tests, where we could scroll through and look for the appropriate degrees of freedom and determine what is the critical value. But even easier than that is go to the tab where it says critical values. We have a critical value for a 0.05 alpha level two-tailed test. We simply enter that number with 12 degrees of freedom, and our critical value is 2.179. We can look at the results in JASP to answer some questions about the assumptions checks. The one assumption check that we have for our paired samples t-test is that of normality. So we want to look at the value for normality, specifically the p-value, and see is or has the assumption for normality been violated. Well, the normality has a probability of 0.613, so we should ask ourselves, has that assumption of normality been met at p less than 0.05? Is that 0.6 less than 0.05? It is not. So the assumption has been met. The data do not differ from normality. How about our assumption being met at 0.01? Well, 0.6 is still greater than 0.01. So this assumption has been met at both the 0.05 and 0.01 level. So we are good with this assumption check. Next, we can look at our JASP output and see what are the statistics for our test. Well, we have a t with 12 degrees of freedom equal to 2.319. Notice I'm using the positive value here. If you have a negative t value, you can always just change it to a positive. The interpretation will be exactly the same. And our probability was a 0.39. So how do we interpret these findings? We determined that writing scores, with their mean and standard deviation, were higher than math scores, with their mean and standard deviation. T with 12 degrees of freedom, notice how I've rounded this to 2.32, and the probability to 0.04. And here's how we would write this up in APA style. I won't read the whole thing for you. You can pause the video if you'd like to read more detail. So write down these answers on the answer sheet if you are working on your homework assignment, and you can take those answers and use them for your weekly assignment. That is what you need to know to do the paired samples t-test in JASP.